and also placed on our website for viewing in the future review. We are the Oceano Advisory Council. I have been serving the community of Oceano for over 30 years and have been working diligently on this vacation rental ordinance for over 2 years. We hope that it could be adopted in the near future. This is just a draft and your input is very important. Maybe like a brief introduction of the council members. My name is Aline Villa, lifelong resident of my beautiful beach town of Oceano, and secretary. Next.
I'll go. My name is April Dury. I am vice chair of Oceano's Advisory Council, and I'm also a lifelong resident. I went to North O, Paulding, and Oregon High School, class of '86. I'm old. And I currently live in Oceano, but I've lived on the Mesa, I've lived Old Oak Park, I've lived in every district and love my hometown. It's my pride and joy to tell anyone that I'm from here.
Lucia, would you like to go next?
My name is Lucia Casalinuovo. I have been a resident of Oceano for over 30 years. I went to school here. My son went to school here. I taught here. I am the treasurer of the Oceano Advisory Council, and I'm very happy to work for our community. Thank you for coming.
Bonnie?
Okay. I'm an at-large member. I just became one, and I have owned a home in Oceano for 22 years and been around the area longer than that. We had a great meeting in person on Saturday, so I look forward to the rest of the meeting tonight.
Okay, thank you. And I'm Charles Varney. I've lived here in Oceano for the past 22 years, been on the advisory council for a few years, and have been putting a lot of work into safe routes to schools, curbs, gutters, sidewalks, and flood control for Oceano. So thank you for those introductions. And let's see if I can go back to screen share. And here we go. So why we need a residential vacation rental ordinance? Our reasons aren't really particularly unique or much different from the reasons that every other community in the county wants to, found a need to propose a vacation rental ordinance. We're kind of the last in line, and basically the ordinance would empower us to have some influence and say so as to how vacation rentals are, how many we have, and how they're managed. There are 3 different categories of rentals in the San Luis Obispo County general plan. And I think an easy way to think of them is that 2 of the 3 require that the property owner live on the premises of any unit that they are renting out. So this is basically, and the most common one is referred to as a homestay. And that's simply where people rent out 1 or 2 rooms in their homes to visitors for a period of not more than 30 days. I mean, it could be an overnight or 2 nights or a weekend, whatever they're comfortable with. A bed and breakfast is the same thing. The owner needs to live on the premises, but they serve food, and as a consequence, they need to have a permit from the county health department. Both of these forms of a vacation rental need permits from the county. They pay what are called transient occupancy taxes, amounting to a little over 12%. of the cost of the lodging. And that money goes into the county general fund to be used as the supervisors see best. No transient occupancy taxes are earmarked particularly for the area of the county that generates them. The supervisors have total control over those monies and how they're used. The vacation rental situation that we're talking about is the use of an entire existing residence as a rental for transient use, and it is not occupied by the owner of that residence. So this is the one that tends to be the most problematic. I think we can all understand how if you're a homeowner and you are renting out a room to somebody who's vacationing at your place, if they start making trouble, they're going to be out pretty quick. And so there tends to be very few reports of like problems from the neighbors and problems with large parties or too many people or too many cars when the owner has to be present. The vacation, the vacation rental, though, the short-term vacation rental does not have an owner present, typically. Maybe they do live in another house across the street, but that's pretty rare. And so then that's where the problems begin emerging. And just so I want to make it clear one more time, the ordinance we're talking about is only about the vacation rentals where the owner is not present. One of the issues we face in our community and certainly across the state is, a lack of affordable housing and preserving the housing stock for long-term rentals, locals, and permanent residents. When something becomes a vacation rental residence, it is basically pulled from the local rental market, and we lose that that capacity to house people who need homes here. We all know that we're in a real housing crisis, and when we say affordable, well, that's relative. Right now, I think a 2-bedroom apartment rents for over $3,000. So that's not affordable by any reasonable standard. Oceano now has really a low long-term rental housing stock. In county data that was reported by Cal Poly researchers, almost 20% of the housing stock in San Luis Obispo in Oceano is not available for locals to rent. And vacation rentals are a very attractive investment, for absentee landlords. They are invested in by people who live out of state or out of country. And also a common form of the vacation rental is by a family that can afford to buy a second home, and they want one here at the beach, and so they turn it into a vacation rental to make the maximum amount of income out of it so that they have flexibility for when they can come and use that property. And then so the additional benefits of having some controls is that we are primarily a bedroom community, and we'd like to protect the residential character. Most people who move into a single family residence or an apartment complex don't expect to be living next to a hotel, in particular a party hotel. And so often that is what happens to the non-owner present vacation rentals, with all kinds of, we heard just a litany of them Saturday, of the negative impacts of the noise, the large parties, parking scarcity, trash, safety concerns, and actually, lack of enforcement was a big issue. So, well, and coincidentally, so the county is currently wrestling with enforcement, and so are the cities. The city of Grover Beach is involved in a longstanding dispute with a vacation rental owner who has back taxes of $16,000 that he's not paid into to the city. The enforcement of regulations is always complaint driven. The county lacks sufficient staffing and resources to really be able to do the kind of job that they'd like to. And so and code enforcement and sheriff are typically, they are unable to respond in a timely manner. So these are issues that go beyond little old Oceano. These are issues that apply to everybody. And we, ultimately will be looking for a county fix of that, not just an Oceano fix for it. An interesting thing about our community is that we have two different areas, and we have two different sets of standards for the regulation of vacation rentals. And the draft ordinance that we have put together, this wasn't something we sat down with a blank computer screen and started typing it up ourselves. By and large, everything that's in there, that's existing county policy. Title 22 and Title 23 of the county code is where that language comes from. So we have a Title 23 applies to the coastal zone, which is west of Highway 1. That's the simple definition of it. And then Title 22 is for the inland area where the majority of Oceanans live. And that would be east of Highway 1. Currently, there are, at least according to county records, there are 86 vacation rentals where there is no owner present located in the coastal zone. And there are, I think 18, or is it 30? April, do you remember that off the top of your head?
30 in the outside the coastal zone.
30 in the inland area. And this ordinance grandfathers in all of these existing vacation rentals and proposes a cap of 100 vacation rentals in the coastal zone, and proposes that for the inland, pardon me, I'm sorry, I don't want to confuse you here. And
The next slide.
Next slide.
Yep,
Okay. For the inland zone, that there be 0 vacation rentals of this type. Remember, it doesn't apply to if you own your own home, or you put in if the Martinez family living on Beach Street puts a accessory dwelling unit in their backyard that they want to use as a vacation rental and they live there, that's not a problem. Or if the Solaces want to rent out 2 bedrooms in their home to vacationers, that's no problem. That's not what we're talking about. So what we're proposing for the inland is that as those 30 existing vacation rentals are sold, that the permit goes away so that eventually over time, then we will be opening up more housing stock for people to live in long-term.
So Charles, next slide. Mhm.
Okay. And so what we're doing is, soliciting your comment. Right, okay, so this is, thank you. This is repeats what I just said, and it does it much clearer. And you can again find all of this on the website. And so, and we are here, wanting, this meeting is to find out what you're thinking, to answer questions, to take your comments and your recommendations. What we'll do with that is then we will go back, we, the advisory council, and we will evaluate, analyze, assess all of the feedback that we got, identify the main, themes that have come up, go back into the document, see where we can make modifications that improve it from the feedback that we have. Then we will bring it to this document. We will then put up on our website. We will agendize it for at least 2 meetings of the advisory council to take more public input, and then we will put it to a vote of the advisory council. If the advisory council votes to approve the draft vacation rental ordinance that we, our final version of it, then it will be sent to the county planning department for their review and their processing. And that's then really when the county takes over. We've given them our input and our advice. And then the county will suggest their changes. And that will, then they will schedule it for a hearing at the planning commission. And this would be another place where then the entire county can put in public comment, and certainly Oceanans are going to be listened to very, hopefully, very closely by the planning commission. The planning commission can take kind of as long as it wants with it. Ultimately, they will vote on it. If they vote to approve it, then it will become part of the the county code. And if they vote to deny it, well, then it's not. Anybody can, any citizen or interest group can appeal the decision of the planning commission to the board of supervisors, and then we would go through the same process with the entire board of supervisors, there being public hearings and opportunities for public input. So just to, if anybody's concerned, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I'm in the process of trying to buy a house that I want it to be a vacation rental, and should I still go through with that or whatever? Well, this is not something that's going to happen in November or December or January. This will be out into 2023 easily. But it will, it's kind of like, we're putting it into the process. Okay, I think now at this point, I would want to go just briefly to see if any of the council members have any other comments before we get into what our meeting is really about, and that is taking public comment and answering questions. Seeing none, then let me, I'm going to stop sharing the screen here. So if you have comments for us, if you have questions for us, please go down to the bottom of the screen, click on the reactions tab. It's on the right, it's kind of the third one in, and raise your hand. I have my hand up there by my head. I'll lower it, and then I will call on you, and I'll ask you to unmute. Yes, Lucy. You can go ahead and speak.
Hi, I'm a consumer of vacation rentals. I live in Grover Beach. I usually use vacation rentals like 2 or 3 times a year. I use Oceano vacation rentals as opposed to Pismo Beach vacation rentals or opposed to Grover Beach vacation rentals because they're affordable. They're right by the beach. Especially my family from Tennessee really enjoys being by the beach because there's no beaches in Tennessee. And for my other relatives, I have people come up from Southern California and people come from Northern California and just have a long weekend so that the children and grandchildren and cousins can get together. And I'm concerned about how this will affect the affordability of being able to use it. If you limit the vacation rentals, will I be able to afford them? And also the length of time. These are usually long weekends. I mean, the Tennessee folks I'll have for a week, but if I'm just having a family get together, it's only for a long weekend. I mean, like we could go over genealogy, and I mean, there's all sorts of things we do. So I'm very concerned about the length of time. I would like to still be able to just do a weekend rather than 7 days, and the affordability, and to be able to have a choice of vacation rentals. In the last probably in the last 5 years, I've used 5 different vacation rentals. I've enjoyed all of them. I've used 2 in McCarthy, 2 in Juanita, and 1 on the Strand. This one on the Strand was actually, even though at the best location, it was not as in good a shape. Most of vacation rentals, because they are vacation rentals, they're extremely good shape. I mean, they take care of these houses because it's their profession. And I see a lot of houses that are not vacation rentals in Oceano area, and they are not taken care of.
Okay. Thank you. Other hands. Yes. iPhone Jim S.
Yes, hi, this is Jim. Can you hear me?
Yes, Jim. Thank you.
I'm one of the non-resident owners that you described earlier. However, I don't live out of state or overseas. We bought our home in Oceano about 10 years ago for the express purpose of using it as a second home. And part of the calculus of being able to buy the home was the fact that we would be able to use it as a vacation rental. So we certainly had that as a consideration when we bought the home. And we'd like to have that as a consideration when we ultimately sell the home at some as yet unidentified time in the future. I'd like to think we're proactive in our management of the property. We visit home frequently. We keep it up as nicely as we can. We've invested a lot.
Jim, we've lost you. Okay, so maybe Jim can get back in.
And
Joel?
real quick, we're doing a 3-minute timer.
Yeah.
We failed
Are
to mention that.
I have my timer going. Are you?
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Please do. I would appreciate it.
I will do it. Absolutely. You've got a lot on your plate.
Joel Anderson, go ahead and unmute, Joel. And it is a 3-minute limit, but we'll, if you haven't finished your
Some leniency.
most important thing.
Okay, the two most things that I find that are most problematic about the proposed regulation is that we'd be prevented from passing the permits that we got for the vacation rental onto a new owner. These permits cost us quite a few $1,000s, both in the fees and the hearings, and then having to pay people to draw up the plans and all the whatever it is you want to call it that had to be submitted to the county. And the other problem is the limit of 4 tenancies per month. Most of our vacation rental people come in from Central Valley, Southern California, maybe Northern California, stay 2 or 3 days. It's usually a family affair and then leave. So we like to be able to have more than 4 tenants a month. We like to have about 6 or 8. In summer, it's very busy. In winter, we're lucky to get 4, so I'm happy that's not a problem. As an owner, I live in Grover. My vacation rentals in the Strand. We visit it frequently. We have a responsible property owner. The last thing we want are noisy parties, because noisy parties tend to damage the house, damage the furniture. So if you ever hear a noisy party at one of our houses, please call the phone number right on the front of the house for the property manager and report it, because they can usually shut it down quickly, and we have on occasion even evicted people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joel.
Thank you, Joel. Do we want iPhone Jim S to finish his minute?
Is Jim back?
I see an iPhone Jim S, and I assume that's him.
Yes, sure.
So you can ask him to unmute.
Jim, you can unmute and finish your remarks.
I will just echo the comments of the fellow who just finished speaking. We have property managers that we count on. We work with them regularly to try to ensure that the space isn't overused and that there are no parties. If ever been discovered, they are definitely a problem for us, and we rectify the situation right away. That would be the extent of my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't see any hands. Oh, yes, here it is. Well, Tina, you're clapping. Did you want to speak as well?
Oh,
Yes, please. I've never raised a hand. Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay. I am also a homeowner, and I actually just wrote a letter I'd rather read because I'm kind of nervous here, and I know I would forget something. So if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Less than 3 minutes. Okay. I'm writing this letter in response to the Oceano Advisory Council's draft in regards to vacation rentals in Oceano. I own a home in the Strands and use this home for my immediate and extended family to all come together. I bought this home when my dad passed away. Sorry.
It's okay.
My
Okay.
family and I would always stay with my dad when we came to visit. With his passing, we wanted to continue the tradition of always having family with us when we came to visit. Therefore, we bought this home in the Strands for that reason. When I drive around the Strands, I notice the homes that are vacation rentals are the majority that look well kept and manicured. The houses that are not look very dilapidated with rotting decks, lots of weeds, and could be maintained better. As I drive down Pier Avenue, all I see is very old, rundown motorhomes that are parked there permanently. They have garbage all around them and bags of something hanging all over them. At night, vehicles park along the residential streets in the strands. They unload their vehicles with their personal belongings and groceries. I personally have watched this, and go into the lagoon. Part of the Oceano Advisory Council's draft consists of no parking on the street for people renting vacation homes. How can the Oceano Advisory Council accept transients vehicles parking long-term on the streets of Oceano, but the people renting vacation homes cannot park in front of the house they are paying to rent? This is addressed in your I. On-site parking required. All parking associated with a residential vacation rental shall be entirely on-site, in garage, driveway, or otherwise out of the roadway, in accordance with subsequent E above. Tenants or residential vacation rentals shall not use on-street parking at any time. With this home not being my primary residence, I offset the cost with renting it as a vacation home, so other families can come, sorry?
45 seconds, sorry.
Oh no, could come together and enjoy each other as much as I enjoy being with my family. When I look through my guest book, there are many families that leave their reviews stating how wonderful it was to have their whole family together. Some are even multi-generation. I was recently there and had many family members staying with me. Having this home makes it affordable for them not to have to rent individual hotel rooms, which would most likely be in Pismo, which defeats the purpose of us all being together. We enjoy going to the local restaurants, fruit and vegetable stands, Melodrama, and many more local establishments. I cannot imagine the people renting vacation homes in Oceano are not doing the same. There is one hotel in Oceano, the Oceano Inn, that has 18 rooms. There is the Pacific Resort, which is classified as a condo, which in your draft, it states that that's a multi-family dwelling, so that they can no longer rent. If the Oceano Hotel is full, the tourists are going to stay in Pismo and spend their money in Pismo, not Oceano. And I really think that what you guys are advising is taking away thousands of tourists and would really hurt the local industries there in Oceano immensely, all the local businesses and establishments that probably the locals all own. And I know we try to only use local, not chain stores or anything like that when we're down there. We support the community 100%. And there you go.
Thank you. Anybody else like to share their thoughts? Okay, seeing away.
Oh, now Thomas.
Okay, Thomas, please unmute.
Yes, I would like to agree with the last two or three people, and I own a couple of properties that are vacation rentals. And we keep them up very well. We have excellent management. They're both on the west side of Highway 1. And when I purchased them, I was told that the west side of Highway 1 was the only place they were going to be allowed, but now I guess they're allowed on the east side. We haven't had any problems. And I can see on one of the properties, the biggest problem are the homeless people that are, and the people that are camping in their motorhomes down Pier Avenue. Do you guys have any suggestions for that? Or are you just strictly going after the vacation rental people, or I don't know what's going on here. And I just wonder, you guys have a student doing your planning and job for you. I can't understand what's happening here. Tell me about that. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas.
Just briefly, the Oceano Advisory Council, like every other advisory council across the unincorporated portions of the county, was created, probably a couple of decades ago.
It was in the 80s.
In the 80s, and to provide county citizens who don't live in a city and have a city council and a mayor they can go to have a sense of having more connection with the Board of Supervisors, who are the people that make the decisions for us. the Oceano Advisory Council is advisory only. We have zero authority. We can bring ideas to the county. If they don't accept them, if they don't like them, they have no obligation to do anything, that we suggest. The issues that many of you are raising about homelessness and people, parking in the streets and all of that. Those are issues that certainly the county is well aware of, and they are struggling in their way to address those. I won't offer an opinion about how effective they have been, but we all know that the problem continues. This is we're seeking to address an issue that has emerged in our community, and it's an issue that many people have brought to us and their concerns about it. And I would just say that, it's not like Oceano is the first community out of the block to say we want a vacation rental ordinance, or not the first advisory committee. All of these other ordinances in Cambria, in Los Osos, have come through advisory councils initiating it. But I understand that there are many issues facing our community, and many of them are intertwined. Yes, Council Member Dury.
If we have no more public comment, do we want to close it then? And then I would like to.
Well, yes, I will. We do have more public comment. So let's,
Okay, then I'll wait until all of it. I just didn't know if we were stopping at this point.
okay,
So Thomas is done.
Brian, go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Charles. I am a property owner in Oceano, east of Highway 1. I also am an Airbnb operator, properly permitted through the county. As this goes forward, I guess my concern with the division proposing 0 ultimately east of Highway 1, it doesn't show any value for the Airbnb. The Airbnb, we would argue, does bring some value to the community, increased sales and restaurants and gas and some retail, some new visitors to the area who may ultimately want to purchase in the area or stay in the area. It exposes the positive things in your community to people who maybe would not have ever stopped in Oceano. So the number 0, I worry a couple things. One, I worry that anytime we're proposing 0, it's a full prohibition, at least at that side of the freeway. Does the city or the county, in this case, open itself up to unnecessary litigation? In other words, is that a reasonable compromise to both sides of this issue, which you've heard today, and I assume at the other in-person meeting, there are 2 sides of this issue. The proposed ordinance really leaves one side with the number 0, at least east of the freeway, which is the majority of the land in Oceano. And then the other side obviously gets 100%. They have no vacation rental. So one, I think maybe the compromise would be like you did on the west side. You've picked a reasonable number that doesn't impact the community. In this case, you identified it as 100. There should be some number, I feel, other than 0 on the other side. Maybe that reasonable number is 30 or 40 or 50, and certainly less than the coastal side. But I worry that it opens it up to unnecessary challenges because it's essentially a complete prohibition. And anytime that that's happened in some other cities, it's been challenged. So is it more reasonable to do something in the middle? And then also, I assume you prepare a report out on these public meetings and the input, but does that opposition to this ordinance or the concerns of this ordinance, is that incorporated into that's provided to the county? And if so, how does that look? The issues raised here today and in the in-person meeting, there's nothing worse than to have a community forum and then not have the opposing views contained or brought up. So how will we know those are brought up? Is that in a written report that you submit ultimately to the Planning Commission?
Okay, thanks for those comments. For this meeting, the record will be in the form of a video that we will, submit to, along with the final recommendations of this group, so that they will have the video of this meeting, verbatim. We were not able to video the Saturday meeting, but we do have an audio tape of it, and that will be submitted as well. So they'll have the full record. We will not provide that as a black and white appendix or anything in the recommendation in the ordinance itself, but it will be there available. The video of this meeting, as are all of our meetings, is posted to our website, available to the community to see anytime. We are the only advisory council that provides that to their communities in the entire county of San Luis Obispo. And I just wanted to clarify that, Brian, you said you have a B&B, so an Airbnb, and I want to remind you that this vacation rental ordinance does not apply to Airbnbs.
To bed and breakfasts.
Yeah, bed and breakfast. Right.
Airbnb is a company.
Okay, so, well, then I don't I'm gonna, Brian, ask you to unmute and clarify, are you renting property as a vacation rental, renting your own property where you live, renting out rooms in your home that you are the occupant of, or do you have a standalone vacant home that you own but you don't live in, that you rent out?
Yeah, it's a traditional vacation rental where I do not stay in the home. Just to clarify, many of us in that situation use the company Airbnb or the company VRBO or minis like that as a scheduling and booking and advertising arm for our property. So when I said earlier, I have an Airbnb, typically a lot of the people will use a company like that, if not that company, just for bookings and to generate leads to the property.
Okay, and then you realize that in this ordinance, your vacation rental is grandfathered in until it's sold, at which time the permit is ended. You understand that part of that, Brian?
He's muted.
Yes, I do.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, looking for more public input.
Salvatore, Deirdre, Tony Almanza, are you looking to speak at all? Well, that's a no.
Okay, so then I will, okay,
Thomas has already spoken.
okay, okay, Thomas, go ahead and make your final comment, please.
Unmute.
He's been asked to unmute. You'll need to unmute, Thomas.
Okay,
There we go.
thank you. I appreciate you letting me speak again. I was just curious what your plan is for the entrance to the beach on Pier Avenue and what's going on there. I don't, I've heard a lot of things, but I've never heard anything concrete.
Okay, thank you for that question. I'll give you a quick answer. the whole status of Pier Avenue and, as you know, vehicles on the beach is in the hands of the Superior Court of the state of California, with multiple lawsuits from the Friends of the Dunes and one other group. And, you know, ultimately that decision will be made by the courts. The speaking for the Oceano Advisory Council in general, our council has gone on record numerous times in support of a pedestrian-friendly renovation of Pier Avenue. We were on record supporting the Coastal Commission decision to close Pier Avenue as of July 1st of 2022, which has been put on hold. And we see Pier Avenue as a very viable tourist destination at some point down the line. So any other public comments? Okay, not seeing any. We will close public comment and I will open it back up to the members. Lucia, I see you have your hand, so why don't you lead off?
Yes, thank you to everyone who participated. I want to make sure that the public understands, as Thomas at the end said, he did understand and realize that we are not taking anybody's vacation rental away at this point. And even if this ordinance will be accepted by the county, it doesn't include the taking anybody's vacation rental away. So a couple of the comments in the public were of people who were having vacation rentals, mostly on the west side, and are expressing fears, concerns. Well, there are what, 86 now on the 86 vacation rentals on the west side. Well, even if we were able to enforce the 100 cap, we still have room for 14 vacation rentals. Actually, we are not taking anybody away, and we're still leaving room for more vacation rentals. So there is nothing to fear if you have a vacation rentals right now on the west side. And on the east side, also, you have nothing to fear because it will be grandfathered in until you sell the house. And to me, that is very reasonable, that a person has been allowed to make some good profit with the permit, with the license, and once that person sells the house, the permit goes away with the person. The house doesn't inherit the permit. If somebody wants a vacation rental, we'll have to get in line if the cap has been reached. Then, you know, I hear what some people said about maybe that zero tolerance might not be enforceable. I hear that. I hear that it might be a good point. Even though I hate to see vacation rentals in Oceano proper, east of the highway. I've lived here for many years. I have excellent neighbors. I know Antonio across the street, Mark on the right, Jessica on the left. And I can just walk out and get my mail and talk to my neighbors. That's the problem with vacation rentals. You don't really have neighbors. So I want to have neighbors. I want to have neighbors, and I want everyone in Oceano to have neighbors. We don't want to live next to a hotel. But I definitely will be open to discuss with the rest of the council about the zero tolerance east of the highway. Thank you. I'm done.
Okay, next up, April.
Okay, and then Charles, in case you're not aware, Bonnie is muted. If she does want to speak, you'll have to give her permission. Okay, so I also am a lifelong resident. I've been in Oceano for a couple of years, and my niece and nephew have grown up here. I want to make a couple comments based on observations of verbal, what I've heard people say. And I think the main thing that I've heard that really disheartens me is the vilification of the homeless in our community. When you're privileged enough to own a home at the beach, that, you know, comes with great title, and congratulations. I congratulate you on your privilege. People are homeless in our community because there is a lack of affordable housing, because the housing stock is being used up for vacation rentals and many other things. And when people can't live here, they take to the streets. So please, accept that you do have privilege here. I won't go more into that. Basically, I heard that you want affordable options. You want the benefit of living with vacation rentals. You want the income. And there really wasn't much about what's best for our community at large when we live here. So I'd like you to understand that when your home that you do not live in is used as a vacation rental, then that home does not have a voter that helps us keep our fire department, that does not help us keep the water rates down, that does not help us elect an official to represent us. So those are the detriments to having vacation rentals that are unoccupied by owners in our community. And that doesn't seem to be understood or acknowledged at all by the people who are privileged to have vacation rentals in our community. One of the things that was asked was, will we be opening ourselves up to litigation? These scare tactic questions, I just think they're, straw man arguments are just not really fair. And we have a legal counsel at the county level who would address these things long before they were ever approved or not. That was a great question of how would this get reported to the Board of Supervisors in the county, based on what we're gathering and what the public has to say. And I appreciate that question. And Charles gave a great answer. We will providing all that information to them, both sides. This isn't drafted in a vacuum, and it's not only going to be drafted by 5 people alone in a vacuum. This is why we're having these meetings. We are listening to you. We are open to what you have to say. So please do know that. I think that was pretty much all I have to say. I just, again, I want to congratulate you on your privilege to own a vacation rental. That's great. And I, as a community member, would like to have a neighbor next to me that knows what's going on in my community and cares about our local issues where we don't have sidewalks for our children to walk to school safely, but the streets over on the Strand get fresh pavement every so often and do have curbs, gutters, and sidewalks on the main thoroughfares. So those are things that I really would like you, the public, to understand what the residents of Oceano face every day. Thank you.
Aline, you're up.
Okay, I'd just like to echo a lot of those comments and also add my own comments. And what I would like to say is that we are the advisory council, and I'm personally myself, I'm very concerned about code enforcement and the appearance of Pier Avenue. And the Oceano Advisory Council has gone on record many a times. There's letters to prove it, that we want, Pier Avenue improved, that we want, better parking, noise levels reduced and all that. So we do care, and we've done what we can, but you also, maybe help us out by also reaching out to our county representatives and letting them know that you want improvement on Pier Avenue, you want more parking, that you want more code enforcement, so that we can, make Pier Avenue as nice as a lot of those vacation rentals on Strand are. You do have a point. Many of them, I've walked there many a times, are very nice. Congratulations for having a nice, keeping it up and being able to afford one, and bringing, tourists to our area, and hopefully those tourists are encouraged to come to Oceano and consume some of our business here. So thank you so much for that. And what we are just trying to do, we're just trying to have an ordinance just like every other area that has an ordinance. We're going to be one of the last to have an ordinance in San Luis Obispo. So hopefully when we have one, it's going to incorporate, we're going to do our best so that everybody's voice is heard and your input is taken into consideration. So thank you for coming to this meeting and future meetings, hopefully. And I also wanted to say that you will be grandfathered in, of course, and that the zero tolerance, I'm like totally open to having, maybe 7 vacation rentals, 10 at the most on the east side, on this side. I think 0 is kind of, I'm open to more than 0. So, and your input is going to be taken into consideration on the number on the Strand side, the west side. So you could be thinking, is 100, do we want more than 100? The area is not that big there. So you also have to think, do we want every other house to be a vacation rental? Do we want every single house to be a vacation rental? You got to think about those things because having, a whole area being 90% vacation rental, I don't think is something that most vacation rental owners want for a lot of reasons. So thank you for coming, and your input will be taken in consideration. Thank you.
Did Lucia, did you want to speak again?
Yes, thank you very much for letting me speak again, because what Council Member April said reminds me, Oceano has the highest number of campsites already in the county. We already allow the greatest number of campers in our county. Then we allow the thousands of campers and visitors on the beach every day. Then we also have a limited number of vacation rentals. I'm just asking everybody, what's enough? For God's sake, how many tourists do we want? How much profit do we want to make? Isn't something enough at one point? We want a place of balance in which everybody wins, okay? The community has to come first because this is where we live, we go to school, we raise our children, and I think that the needs of our community have been overlooked for the past 40, 50 years. Oceano does not have a representative. We don't have a council member, blah, blah, blah. Our supervisors have not been very responsive. So it seems like most of the tourists of the country have been dumped on us. So now we are just kind of taking care of ourselves. And I thank everybody for coming. Thank you.
Okay. Bonnie, it's your turn.
Hey, thanks for sticking with this for so long. We had a great, as I said, we had a great meeting on Saturday, and a lot of people had some really good points. The beauty of the Oceano Advisory Council, I guess, is that people have different opinions. And my experience with my neighborhood, which is on the east side of Highway 1, is different than Lucia's, and it's different than Charles. And I tend to agree with a lot of people saying that the vacation rentals, they keep up their property. They do a great job of keeping up their property. And we've heard this again and again. Some of the just plain old renters don't. And there's a problem with code enforcement in that. So I would be one that would tend to agree with that a 0% on the east side is not agreeable. That we need some to balance out. It shouldn't be all put on the west side. I hope everybody's clear on that you will be grandfathered in. I hope everybody's clear that nothing is written in stone, that everybody has input. And like Aline said, do you want like 100 rentals on the west side? Do you want like 50 on the east? Do you want 200 on the west side? What do you think is reasonable? What do you want? Do you want a limit on how far apart they are? It's really all negotiable, and as I said, nothing's written in stone. I think code enforcement is big with people that have rentals, whether they're Airbnb rentals or vacation rentals or whatever. We hear that over and over again, that code enforcement to places is not happening. So that can be addressed down the road. Let's see what else. My concern is also the taxes. We pay 12.5% taxes. I'm a Airbnb renter. I rent out a room in my house. I pay 12.5% taxes. My big concern is taxes, and are they going back to the community? So hopefully that can be addressed somehow. But this ordinance is really putting on some limits on the future. It's not putting limits on the past. It's like, where do you want it to be in the future? So don't worry about if you've gone to a vacation rental here, they're not going to go away. That's not going to happen. The only thing it would affect is if you owned a vacation rental and you sold your house, and then does that get turned over? Well, it's just kind of like a business license. If you have a business license, is that going to carry with you to the next person that owns your house? Well, probably not. So that's a really fine line and not something to actually worry about. I thank you for the comments, and I think we all do have different opinions. We've gotten a lot of great input about suggestions about maybe some of the vacation rentals could have signage on who to call, exactly who to call if there's problems. So some of the finer points of how to adjust the ordinance, I think we're still working on. And thanks for coming. Thanks for your input. I'm sorry if I rambled a little bit. That's all I have.
All right. Well, with that, we'll call this public hearing to an end.
Did we just quickly, Charles, explain to people that it will probably be on our next agenda? We'll talk about this some more. We're not at a place where we're turning something into the county in the next week or 2 or 3 for sure.
Thank you for that. Yes. And you can get the agendas and track our meetings at oceanoadvisorycouncil.org. Our website is up there. All the information is up there, the agendas, the minutes of the meetings, the documents that we'll be discussing. And this, as we revise the vacation rental ordinance, when we have that final revision completed, it will be posted on our, well, the next iteration of it, the next revision will be posted on the website for your review and comments. All right. That being said, thank you, council members, and thank you, members of the public, for participating in this forum.
Thank you, public.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.